here. I don't see the chair, Honorable Gillion.
I'm here, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you very much. Chair, this session will be chaired by yourself. And now hand over to you, Chair. All honorable members are here. So we can then start. The candidate is here already.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Marincha Gillian. I'm the Chairperson of the Select Committee on Health and Social Services. I'm the co-chair of the subcommittee who's dealing with the NYDA process. The chairperson is Member Naba, and she is the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee in the National Assembly, the Portfolio Committee dealing with women, youth, and people with disabilities. Now I will hand over to the chairperson. Before that, Member Maleka, are you here? There's another member. Okay. There's another member who's joining us on virtual, Member Maleka. I will hand over to the chairperson to continue with the introduction of all the members and the technical staff. Thank you, Chair.
In that order, honorable members, Honorable Maleka.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Emal Khotwane, wa bolelang ke boitumelo Maluleke. Ke moleloko wa committee e. Ke a leboga modulasetulo.
Thank you, Honorable Chairs, and good afternoon, ma'am. Tell us some. Thank you, Honorable Chairs, and good afternoon, Chairperson, and yes, Honorable. We were welcome, and my name is Bongle Kaula, member of this committee. Good afternoon, Chairperson, and yes, Honorable. We were welcome, and my name is Bongle Kaula, member of this committee.
Thank you, Chairperson. Masibulise kuwe sisi ngumbulelo Bharha, lilungu le committee. Inkosi.
Good afternoon. My name is Fikile Masiko. I am a member of the committee. Good afternoon. My name is Fikile Masiko. I am a member of the committee.
Thank you very much to both chairs. My name is Louis Olompiti, and I'm also a member of the committee. A warm welcome.
And then the two ladies who are sitting at the back is Ms. Nomvula Jiba, the manager for committees in Parliament, and Ms. Nobatana, our committee secretary. The one who was dealing with the logistics is Ms. Zuki France, and she's the coordinator in the select committee of NCOP. You have 40 minutes, 45 minutes with us. Oh, okay, sharp. I forgot.
Technical hiccup. My name is Chabeleng Elek. I serve in the subcommittee. Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay. Don't touch those mics. Eh? Okay. You have 45 minutes with us, and then sometimes we'll exceed because of follow-up questions by members. So if you didn't hear the question, you are free to ask the member to repeat the question, but make yourself comfortable. If you feel that you are not free or not comfortable, just drink that water and make yourself comfortable, because how you'll end up doing mistakes. But if you are comfortable, it's normal to be frightened, because it's an interview, obviously, and everybody is watching you. So make yourself comfortable. Yeah. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. Ms. Lekgotjane, can you describe yourself? Give us an overview of who you are, and also why you are interested in becoming a board member of NYDA. Why do you think you will be a suitable candidate? Did you hear my question, members? Did you hear the question that I posed to the candidate? It seems like there's no sound.
I did hear you.
Okay. Okay, then you can continue, ma'am.
Testing 1, 2. Thank you.
Now I can, yeah.
Okay. My name is Refilwe Lekgothwane. I was born and bred in Mamelodi, which is a township in the east of Pretoria. My early education started at Tambo Primary School, which is now known as Dr. F.F. Ruberu Primary. Is it fine? Is it on? Okay. Okay. My name is Refilwe Lekgothwane. I was born and bred in Mamelodi, a township in the east of Pretoria in Gauteng. My early education started at Tambo Primary School, which is now known as Dr. F.F. Ruberu Primary School. Then later, when I was doing grade 2, I moved to Iona Convent, where I also completed, I was at the school until matric. I completed matric in 2004. My youth activism days started at the age of 16 when I joined the African National Congress Youth League. But also during that time, I was involved in my community dealing with drug and alcohol abuse. The township I come from has a crisis of Unyaupe. And part of our responsibilities as young people in Mamelodi at that time, we stood up against fighting Nyaupe. My activism when I went for sports management at Tshwane University of Technology, where I was active in various committees in the university. Committees like in the residence committee, where I was elected to be head of sports and recreation. I was also elected to be the first interim sports council, which produced what we call today the Student Sports Council. That contributed to also my passion in sports, and also in terms of transformation and empowering young women. I was in the leadership of the Young Women's Network, which was a pilot, I believe, of the then National Youth Commission. When I was in the Young Women's Network, our responsibilities were to mobilize all women, all young women, regardless of race or the political affiliation that they were aligned to address issues that young women were faced with on campus and also outside in communities. I was also elected to serve as a deputy secretary of the SRC, of the local SRC at Tshwane University of Technology, Pretoria campus. My main responsibilities at that time was to approve societies and engage with societies on campus. One that is very close to my heart is the formulation of the disability desk. I was able to work with differently abled students on campus to address their issues and also assist them in everything, all aspects of their challenges, and also support them in all their campaigns. I was also elected to serve as the Student Affairs and Residence Operations Officer of the Central SRC. I served the student movement in all structures, from branch level until the National Executive Committee, where I served as a National Governance Officer. My work experience started when I started volunteering at the African National Congress in the communications team. I then moved to work at Queendom Solutions, whose main client at that time was the African National Congress Communications, where I was a media liaison officer, liaising with all regions and the leagues. And I was also responsible for consolidating a portfolio as I was the head photographer. I was later appointed, recently I was appointed as an outreach officer in the office of the executive chairperson at the National Youth Development Agency. Me being an outreach officer has exposed me, and also I was able to continue doing what I love in terms of community work. My experience at the NYDA was stakeholder engagement, also communication skills were enhanced because I was also assisting the NYDA as a photographer, which assists NYDA to enhance its portfolio in terms of digital communications. My passion for community development, the reason why I want to be in the NYDA board, sorry. One of the reasons why I want to be serve in the NYDA board is to provide my expertise and my experiences as a young person on the ground and things that I've experienced on the ground when I was working at the NYDA, and to also provide solutions, because we cannot always say that no, these are challenges. I think we must find solutions. For instance, I would like to propose that the NYDA needs to develop a gender approative strategy that will also enforce the NYDA to formulate a permanent structure of gender-based violence. That structure of gender-based violence should be able to of a young women that are faced with, and also dealing with gender-based violence, including involving all NGOs and societies in all sectors, and also to have a disability structure that will help to deal young people living with disabilities. Because up until today, young people living with disabilities are excluded in the economy. Also, young women are excluded in the economy. We need to the NYDA, I'll propose strategies that will assist young women and people with disabilities for them to be stopped using, to not be used as quotas, but rather as humans, as recognized by the Constitution of South Africa, that we are all equal and we are all human beings. I'll pause for now.
Thank you.
Chair, thank you very much for your introduction, Ms. Refile.
Chairperson, will you continue?
Honorable Masiko, Honorable Maluleka, Honorable Bacha, Honorable Mpiti, Honorable Kaula, and Ndaden Chabeling. Malika, you can start.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairpersons, and thank you very much, Ms. Refile, for the introduction that you have given us. I am going to pick up on the work that you have told the committee that you have done for the National Youth Development Agency. And you have told us that you've worked for the NYDA in the portfolio stakeholder management. Can you tell us in your own assessment if the NYDA has been able to perform its mandate efficiently? And if you feel that it has done so, how it has been able to do so? And if it has not been able to perform its mandate, can you substantiate as to how, what are the loopholes that you have identified? For instance, there has been an outcry that the youth from the rural areas have not really been able to access the NYDA. It's only accessible to those that are living in the suburban areas and those that are, around certain areas and are able to, access it. So can you speak with regards to the work that you have done as a stakeholder manager for the National Youth Development Agency? Thank you.
Thank you very much. When I was at the NYDA, I also managed to work with a few NGOs in dealing with issues of outreach and dealing with issues of young people in communities. There was one program I worked with the Michelle May Foundation. We went to Elusikisiki where we saw that there's a crisis of young people dropping out of school at an early age because the school is too far for them. And also, the Michelle Myth Foundation has been helping young people on the ground to actually assist them to apply for businesses. But also the NYDA be able to go to all corners of the country, go back to community, to rural areas, even townships. For instance, as much as we can note the fact that we agree NYDA has improved in terms of the footprint, it has now over 50% offices open in district offices, but it has not been able to reach young people. For instance, Msinga, a young person in Hadikhale, a young person there in Zanini, a young person in Venda, or a young person in Sitobeni, or a young person in Davidson. They'll all have to go to town. A young person from Singa will have to go to the Durban branch to get a services of NYDA, which is more than 2 hours away. What we need to do now is, if I was in the board, I'll suggest that in terms of us increasing the footprint, firstly, we need to engage the municipalities to say that wherever you have service centers, the NYDA must be, in terms of youth development, must be given a space for NYDA youth service centers. Where in rural areas where there are no service centers, the NYDA, together with the municipalities and those NGOs that are on the ground, because NGOs, I believe that they play a crucial role. I think it's time that the NYDA must also be inclusive. Include NGOs that are there dealing with youth that have dropped out. We need to be inclusive of that. And also in rural areas, if there's no service center, we go to community centers, and we can also go to as much as engaging nezinkosi, nezinduna, so that we can access their offices for us to have services reach out to young people. And secondly, the NYDA should utilize its NYS services. NYS volunteers need to go to all corners. If NYS volunteers today can go to Msinga, train young people, so that when they leave, they finish their training program, there's a footprint. The next generation that has been trained will carry on the baton and train the next generation, so that we don't leave and say that, no, we provided services today while leaving. We provided sanitary towels while leaving. We need continuous development programs.
Malika?
Thank you, Chairperson. There are multiple views in society which suggest that the NYDA Act needs to be reviewed. The NYDA Act has been in existence for 10 years. So what would your input in the NYDA Act to such that it can be more effective for young youth development?
Thank you very much for that question. The first suggestion I'd like to make for the amendment of the Act is the increase of the board members. The NYDA currently has 7 board members when we have 9 provinces. And it also says that it must be spread it must be demographic spread. How are we going to implement that when it's only space for 7 when we have 9 provinces? Number one. And also, the Act should really emphasize on the issue of provinces having structures and also regions and districts. Because right now, those provinces and regions have not implemented their full mandate in terms of having youth development in their sectors. Thank you.
Maluleke. Maluleke. Maluleke.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Chairperson. And Mem Lekgotwane, as you said, you served, I don't know whether you served or you worked at the NYDA. There's this perception, whether it's correct or not, but the perception is there, that many young people feel that the NYDA, it's not saving them all in this country, but a few. Then if you are appointed as a board member, what is it that you are going to do to ensure that this negative perception is done away with, so that young people can have trust in the NYDA? Thank you, Chair.
For the question, I think for us to eliminate, firstly, the whole perception, we need to communicate our communication strategy to tell young people that these are the products and services that they need. And also the NYDA, like I said before, needs to be inclusive. If the NYDA was in a position of working together with NGOs, working together be open about it, because we are, the NYDA, we're supposed to be accountable and also be working in being transparent. So for us to eliminate that whole perception, I think we need to be more inclusive, even in terms of sorry. I'll try.
Relax.
It's been a long day.
Relax. Drink water.
Sorry?
Drink water. Yeah, drink water.
Thank you.
You'll cool down a little bit.
Like I was saying, re ka leka gore re ye ko bathong re ba tlhalosetse gore NYDA e bereka bjang. And also re be inclusive, include civic organizations. Yes, it's there, but not enough has been done. I believe that. Also NGOs, we need to be more inclusive. I think because of this whole political perception, that is entirely wrong. It should be based on what the work is there and are we delivering or not. And for us to eliminate that, I think also if we had communicated properly to young people, it will not be there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mkweba.
No, thank you, Chair.
Before Refile, feel free to express yourself in any language.
Yes.
Whereas Changana or Zulu, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And thank you to Ms. Lekgotwane. I just peruse your CV and I then picked up in terms of your main responsibilities. One, you've been managing all social medias and also, doing internal and external communication. That also, in my view, that in terms of the SONA 2020 of the president, spoke about equipping learners and youth with the required skills for the fourth industrial revolution.
So, Ms. Lukwatana, should you get appointed, how can an institution like the NYDA support young people, especially those that are unemployed in rural areas and all the other areas of the country, the academics that are still unemployed as well, and also those that are in rural areas inspired to be entrepreneurs, to digitalize their operations in terms of making sure that they also get the required skills of the fourth industrial revolution.
I think the approach of the NYDA firstly to engage IT companies to partner with them, and also to engage government and the private sector as entirely to support young people, especially from a young age, but whom you were from in high school, so that they can equip the skills that they need. The NYDA should run training programs of, for instance, digital communications, because the 4 hours broad. There's robotics, there's the issue of technology is just going to be brought there. So I think if the NYDA can partner and focus in that area, because right now we're in an era of the new normal. When we speak about digital communications, now I can say that take a simple thing like Facebook has turned into something that we're communicating with right now. Facebook that used to be used as a social page, or even Instagram or Twitter where I just post my pictures and move on. But now we're utilizing those things to disseminate information. But what about those young people in rural areas that don't have access to internet, that don't have access to even to electricity? We need to develop a program that is a low-tech and high-tech approach, saying that those that are in marginalized areas, how do we go there and train them? Take those stakeholders that I'm talking about, the IT companies, saying that we need to go and train those ones that are in marginalized areas so that they can equip skills, so that the day that we say that the country will have innovation centers. For instance, I know the NYDA has partnered recently with the city of Ekurhuleni. They opened an innovation hub. Those innovation hubs need to be open across the country, everywhere, even in rural areas, not only in townships, not only in towns. We need innovation hubs in Hadikhali, Kwa Nzima. We need an innovation hub there in MC or Estex. So if we can broaden that and also focus on that training at a very young age, and also say that post-matric, even in universities, they need to be that training. Thank you.
Inkosi Sihlalo. Iyavakala sisi indaba oyibekayo nokuthi mhlawumbe how should NYDA be able to improve on what it's been doing, to an extent that it's important to make more emphasis on issues that, confront young people out and about in the country. But the reality of the matter is that there are young people who are unemployed. There are young people who do not know where to move from where they are currently located or situated as we speak. There are young people who are looking up at the NYDA as the only hope of taking them or moving them from the situation that they are in at this point. Now, what I would want to know from you, if you were to be appointed, what steps would you take to ensure that young people move from where they are? They see that there is future and a lot of hope for them to be at in the country in general. What is it that you can start with to make sure that they do see that the NYDA is there for them and is there for the betterment of their country and of themselves as individuals?
Thank you very much for the question. I'd like to repeat this again. If the NYDA can try its best to go out to all communities, increasing its footprint, and also trying to, not even trying, it needs to implement its mandate. In terms of implementing its programs of developing an integrated youth strategy and policy. Now, we need to move forward and say that let's go and engage the private sector and also engage all departments, because I've realized that departments are focusing now on short-term assistance for young people, your learnerships. What's going on with a young person after getting that learnership? So we need to go to young people on the ground and say that, but also we need to assist young people to get the skills that they need. The NYDA runs training programs. The NYDA is running mentoring programs. But we need to encourage you that these are the programs that are there that can assist you. Also, we should not only focus on assisting young people to get jobs. We need to empower young people to say that they can start their own businesses. We need to equip them with that knowledge to say that they can start their own business and they can determine their future. For instance, if I want to speak about the issue of agri-use expenditure, it will be difficult for us now to speak about agriculture when the majority of the land, even the agriculture industry, 70% of it is owned by the minority. We don't even own the land. We need to own the land for us to get to get the economy, so that we know that as NYDA will be confident to say that we are placing these all our programs are going to be implemented. It's to be honest, sir, it's very difficult because we don't have our economy, we don't have our resources, we don't have our minerals. Let's start also by radically so implementing to say that we want to nationalize mines, we want to nationalize lands. Land and mines must be taken back to its owners, which is the majority in South Africa, who are the ones that are frustrated and are the ones that are marginalized. Thank you. I'll stop there.
Kaula?
Thank you, Chair. Mhlonishwa Refilwe. I-youth la eSouth Africa yonke kanye nabantu abakhubazekile basenkingeni enkulu yokureyishwa nokuthathelwa ama-rights awo. Ama-rights awo mangikhuluma ngokuthathelwa ama-rights awo, mhlambe ke sithi umuntu wesifazane bekade nomhlaba kwashona umkhwenyana ngenxa yokuthi ke manje akafuni ukungenwa, sekufanele manje ahambe endaweni nalento ukuthi ubuholo lobunye khona buye buthi noma ngathi ubuholo bendawo ke emakhaya khona lana okuthiwa khona if wena umhlaba bungumkhwenyana wakho wena akasasekho awufuni umuntu ufuna uhambe, yini ongasiza ngakulo youth kulabo abantu besifazane nalabo abakhubazekile ngoba phela nabo bakhona abakhubazekile abaney'nkinga ey'njalo abathatheka kancane ngenxa yokuthi bakhubazekile. Bese ngithi lana sinama university amaningi nama college. Intsha yethu iyile kona yafunda. Sino engineer lana, sino welder, even abantu besifazane. Uthola izitifiketi akakwazi ukuqasheka kazo. Nanokuthi mhlambe la eSouth Africa ngizokuqinisekisa khona. Ikhona lethu ufunde kakhulu. Ibe nomthelela wokuthi kusanayo lento ukuthi ngoba umnyama ngeke ukwazi ukuthi ungene kulesa sikhala. Mina ngesingami ngibheka ukuthi lento yebala la eSouth Africa ayikakaphili. Wena kodwa uthola ukuthi uyakwazi ukuthi kuleya position ungakwazi ukungena kuyona bese sekubhekelela ibala. Just ukufanekisa nje njengasemkhonjini yolwandle. Wena abantu abamnyama bayifiwe bangena i-youth yethu esiyibona lapha yana. Yini ongayenza ukuthi laba abantu abenze i-welding aba-engineer sibabone nabo bekwazi ukuthi ubakhulumele sibabone nabo bekwazi baye baba matilos lapha yana bakwazi ukuthi bayo-welda imikhumbi phansi. Kanjalo sibabone futhi bengo-engineer mhlambe kushintshwa kade mhlambe kuyumshini othize la mhlambe ungomoba kade kutulaga khona umoba. Uthathe wena njengawe kuthiwa okay wozani izoshintsha wonke le mshini ngoba isikhathi saso siphelele. Ngale kokubheka ukuthi umuntu unhloboni yebala. Mawungena lana kwenzeka uya-appointwa lana. Yini ongenza ukuthi lezi ingane zethu singagcini seyifundile seyihleli nezitifiketi kodwa ingasaqasheki ngenxa yebala. Nalento ukuthi sinenkinga ye-PEWP. Le ongakwazi ngisho nokuthi ungakwazi uyoboleka imali ebank ngisho ukuthenga impahla ngoba even ama-payslip awekho. And lonke lonto futhi affect abantu i-youth phela asithi umsebenzi awunawo ukuthi ufunde kanjani ugcina nawe usuyiphosa la. Yini ongayenza ukuthi aphele ama-EPWP bakazwe abantu baqashwe ukuze kwande imisebenzi ngale kokubhekelela abantu abathize ofuna kube yibona abathatha lezi nkampani bese i-youth ingena ngaphansi kwabo. Ngiyabonga.
I need a bit of translation because I was a bit lost there.
We are looking for role players. We are looking for pioneers. What?
Ngiqale ngokuthi la eSouth Africa sine youth efundile. Ifundile le youth ifunde ngokuthi idifiketi nazo ngenxa yebala. Kukhona lana egcina sekubhekwa ibala ingakwazi ukuqasheka ngoba kusho ukuthi la eSouth Africa thina as i-youth yethu sefana nayo ekakakhululeki. So ke wait ikhona lento ukuthi kubhekwe ukuthi le mali efanele ngabe yayihola ngoba umuntu omnyama.
All right. We are looking for role players, we're looking for pioneers, people who are going to emerge as a beacon of hope for our young people. We have a challenge where some of our youth is deemed overqualified. This becomes a problem in the workplace, and they also face challenges where they don't get the salaries they deserve because of their color.
And sifuna ukubona uzokwenza njani ukuthi nathi youth yethu laba benze engineering nama welding sibabona bephansi nabo olwandle kwimkhumbi nabo be welda imkhumbi beyikhanda.
What are the tools or what are the strategies are you bringing forward to make sure that our engineers, they become manufacturers, they build ships?
Sibabone beqashwa emkhumbini nabo ngale kokubhekwa ibala nokuthi if mayisebenza emkhunjini uzothola imali engakanani. Ngoba vese kade sinazo izingane ezinalezi zitifiketi ezenza i-welding, ezenza engineering, but kodwa azikwazi ukuqasheka ngoba la eSouth Africa kusenendawo la okusabhekelela khona abantu abamnyama nabantu abamhlophe. Wena uzokwenza njani ukuthi lezi zingane zethu nazo siyibone iqashwe nalento ka EPWP ukuthi yini ongayenza ukuthi iphele ukuze izingane zethu naziqashwe permanent zikwazi ukuthi zihola amaholo azokwazi ukuthi bakwazi uma befuna ukuthenga impahla esitolo baye bakwazi ukuthola nama benefits abo. Oyizulu ngasazi.
How are you going to help young engineers and protect them, or rather eliminate discrimination? Because when it comes to the engineering sector, they've suffered the most because of their color. How are you going to change that?
Okay.
Hey, go see a cantor.
Young people.
Iship umkhumbi. Sibabone nabo abantu bakithi phakathi beyongena baba welder.
That's why
engineer.
Welding sheets and so on. Even that one of turning the sheets. You know what is happening in the ocean? You know those big marines, what do they call them? Marines. Yes, those that you'll find.
I think it goes. I think it will go back to what I had raised. Not only the economy, that young people have been used as quotas, Mam Kaul. And as the NYDA, we need to engage all stakeholders. Actually, start being radical about it, fighting the issue of racial quota in workplaces. Fight the issue of racial quota even in sporting codes, because we cannot be in a democratic country guided by the same constitution and we still have racial discrimination when it says that we're all equal. Even with the economy, I would like to give an example. There's a young graduate in TUT that was doing chemical engineering, but he's differently abled. He did an internship at the Department of Energy for 12 months. But in that process, he was only given an internship for doing administration, but yet he's a chemical engineering graduate. These are things that the NYDA needs to radically approach them and deal with them. Because it means that if a differently abled youth he has a degree in civil engineering, is different to Refilwe, who did the same course and we graduated. We're all human beings. That's why I don't call them persons living with disabilities. I call them differently abled youth, because they're abled in their own way, and they must not be treated as a quota. Equally, young people, especially majority of young people, meaning Black in particular, sorry, I had to say it. We cannot be used as a quota. Young people need to be at the center stage of the economy. We need to fight back to get our economy. We need to fight back to get what is ours. Like, we need to start by getting back the land. We need to nationalize mines, because the reality of the matter is that we're controlled by the private sector. And I think that we're still massaging the private sector's feelings.
Kaula is saying, if you are appointed as a board member in NYDA, how are you going to ensure that the answers that you're giving us now are implemented? That's what she's asking. She had the part that you're explaining, she heard you saying it, but now she wants to understand from you that if you are given an opportunity to be appointed as a board member, how are you going to assist NYDA so that those things that you're talking about are realized by young people? Because all of us, we know that the economy is not in our hands, it's in the hands of the few. But what is critical is that how do we ensure if you're appointed as a board member, how are you going to ensure that the NYDA assists in terms of youth participating in all those nokonjang?
Thank you, Slalo. I think also me being, if I get to be in the board, we will try to say that as much as young people, Mamkaula, are trained to be engineers, how about they also start their own companies? They need to be trained. NYDA needs to come up with those training aspects and say that we are going to train all young people so that also they can stand on their own. Unlike
mina ngifuna ulento employment ukuthi ke nabo yabona lezi zinto ezinkulu njengemkhumbi sibabona iyouth yethu ngoba ifundile nayo iphakathi lapha emkhunjini ikwazi ukuthi ikhanda imkhumbi ibheke izinto mangabe khona uphuke khona iweldele ngoba bafundile banazo certificate ngoba okokuthi sisothi bazokwazi benze yaba into enzima le kube sihluleka into ezilula manje asibabone ke nabo ke benabo bongena lapha kungabheka ukuthi lo muntu lomnyama uma ingena lapha yana uzohola imali enkulu uyayizwa lonto kodwa ngizocela sidlule nje kuleli phuzu ngoba vese asizwane ngoba lento ifana exactly njengoToyota uToyota ula eSouth Africa abantu abenza imoto la eSouth Africa ifika la zamaphatha ahlukene abantu kodwa la bakithi youth yethu iphuma ema-university igcina ngokusebenza akekho simbonayo lapha yana kuthiwa hayi nakho ake kube wena manje ozophatha lo msebenzi nawe kokwakhe ngitshela ngoToyota into elula itimela zikude kabi uthi ungathiwa zibo zona ngoba yabo.
Okay, let's pass that one. Let's pass that one. You are talking about internship, that young people who are graduates, when they are placed for internship, they are not placed according to their skills and according to their qualifications. How then, if you as a board, you are appointed in the NYDA, going to ensure that young people who have qualified, whether to be artisans or to be engineers, when they are placed by public sector and private sector, are placed in positions that are equal to their qualifications and their skills?
Thanks, Chairperson, for the question. I think as the NYDA, we should be in that position to go and engage and ask to check what are the requirements. Because if a young person can come to us and says that he did chemical engineering, but they have been put as an executive officer in a certain department, the NYDA should go and engage that department, because young people should be based on merit and based on those qualifications that they seek. Because for you, if you graduate from chemical engineering, you need an internship with that field for you to gain the experience. So it means that private sector and our government departments are derailing young people. So the NYDA needs to go and thoroughly engage those departments. And also, Skalo, the NYDA, I think the incoming board should check on the issue of experience, job experience at an entry level. Because as much as the NYDA has fought for that victory, have we monitored the progress of it? Because even up until today, young people bafuna ama requirements for entry level. So the NYDA needs to develop that working relationship, go and engage with all stakeholders and say that these are young people in all sectors. Young people must be appointed according to merit, because you'll be derailing a young person if a young person did marketing, women's admin, or a young person went to civil engineering, women's admin. Means that all young people will never progress. So the NYDA needs to increase it must go and engage thoroughly, not even thoroughly, must at some point be radical about it. Because I think young people are put in a corner at some point by even our own government entities. And NYDA being the custodian of all young issues of young people, we need to be able to engage them on that.
That was the last question. Yeah, no, you can ask.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try to be quick to not waste time. Just two things to say. The first one is to say I think it's very important to speak to the NGO sector, because the NYDA is a developmental organization. And so one can agree to say that the expectations of young people, together with the capacity of the NYDA, may see a mismatch, right? And so the NYDA needs to partner up with NGOs, because they cannot be across the spectrum. So I think that's a very important point that you are making. But what I want to probe you on is on the point where you've spoken about the private sector. And so the point on the private sector, I think, is an interesting one, because the private sector has a variety of players that find themselves in there. And so as a board member, your approach to the private sector is a very important one, because many times you are receiving donations from the private sector. You are also working and engaging with the private sector. You are also encouraging the private sector to get involved in the employment tax incentive to employ young people. You are also going to them about the YES program so that they can use their companies to equip our young people with the skills they need to be employable. And so I want to ask you about that relationship and how you would engage it, because it's an important one for you, should you be appointed into the NYDA, to navigate, because they are a key stakeholder for you, should you be appointed to the board. So I want to understand that approach, and maybe if you can just expand when you discuss that, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. Part of the responsibilities of the NYDA is to facilitate, coordinate, and also engage all sectors. So we must not be shy to speak to private or even public institutions. And if we feel that a private sector is withholding young people back, we must be afraid to engage them in those aspects. In terms of building relationships, I think it must be broad. Those relationships with both government and also private sector. Because the reality is that one cannot live without the other right now, currently, in the current situation, in the current economic situation that we're in. So in terms of us continuing to engage, I think the NYDA needs to also develop programs that will help young people. And also, we know that those programs are linked with the government or with the private sector to actually assist young people. I hope I covered your question.
We have come to the end of your interview. Mina mangikhuluma ngale nto ngathani ngizwa. Angizwakali ne mangifakile mask. Yeah. Thank you very much, Refilwe. We have come to an end of your interview. Is there anything that you want to ask the honorable members, or maybe a comment?
Just
as long as you are not asking us a question that needs you as a candidate to answer.
No, I want to ask Chair, sithola nini umhlaba? Sithola nini umhlaba? And I would like to say, like, thank you very much for the opportunity, but sithola nini umhlaba?
Nina nifakile submission, ni attended my public hearings, because I can remember public hearings were open for everybody. So if you have participated in that process, that means you are ready now.
For the implementation, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
You know, the person who, the decision to appoint, it lies with the president. Ne? Tina, as a parliament, will make recommendations, and the president will be the one who will appoint people who will serve in the board. And then it's then that all our candidates will receive letters from the presidency. Yeah, we wish you good luck. And thank you very much for honoring our invitation and for your time. Thank you. Chair, we're starting. Everybody is back.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. I request that honorable members must mute their mics, ne? Because ngiyayiva njengoba ikhowisha kanje. Kusho ukuthi mhlambe your mics are on. Only that is okay. Ungabambi lutho lapho ne? Noncepa ungabambi lutho lapho. Imouse ungayibambi ya mama wayekela lo kanjalo bawayenze on vele. Honorable Chair, you can take over.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon, members. Good afternoon, Ms. Lowley. Welcome back to the last session. Is our candidate in the house? I don't see a chairperson.
She's here.
Okay.
But all of you, I don't see your faces. Malika, I don't see her. Figile, I don't see her. I don't see yourself. I don't see Maluleke. Honorable Mpiti, I don't see. I see only Kaula, myself, and Honorable Bacha and Honorable Mugweba.
I think it is the system that we are using, Chairperson, because I can also not see everybody. But let's continue. Let's welcome Ms. Slowly in the house. And
but can we see our candidates? And
I can't see.
We must see our candidate. Can you see her? The sound is okay. It's okay? Okay, sure. Okay, Chair, you can start.
Okay, welcome, Ms. Slowly. Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Marensha Gillian. I'm the co-chair of the subcommittee dealing with the NYDA board process. I'm also the chairperson of the Select Committee of Health and Social Services in the NCOP. The chairperson of the subcommittee is member Slantla. She is also the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee in the National Assembly of Women, Youth and People with Disabilities. And I will hand over to the chairperson to introduce all the other honorable members. I am on virtual, and with me also on virtual is member Maleka from the NCOP from Mpumalanga province. Chairperson, you can continue with the introduction of the honorable members who is there with you, as well as our technical staff. Thank you.
Thank you so much to both chairpersons. And I'm also a member of this committee since I'm the first one. Thank you.
Good afternoon, chairpersons, and good afternoon, Ms. Ndauli. My name is Fikile Masiko. I'm a member of the subcommittee.
Enkosi kosihlalo bobabini molo nakuwe sisi uMhlawuli umbulelo Bhaga olilungu lale committee. Enkosi.
Ke mang kante?
Yeah.
There we go. Mem Mhlauli. Ke mo?
Mhlauli. L-I. Uska ibala Sesotho.
Mhlauli.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Nake Elegant Chabeleng, that's my name. And I serve in the subcommittee. Mem Mhlauli, you're welcome. Thank you. And sorry if I'm pronouncing your surname wrong. It's no disrespect. Let me switch.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Nkosazana Mhlaula. My name is Bongile Kaula, member of the committee. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you, Honorable Chairs, and good evening, Ma'am Mhlaula. My name is Telisom Gweba, the member of this subcommittee.
Good evening, Ma'am Mhlauli, and thank you, Chairperson. My name is Boitumelo Maluleke, member of the subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. The gentleman sitting next to Honorable Mpiti is Honorable Dr. Tembe, our legal person from Parliament, and Ms. Nomvula Jiba, our committee, the manager for committees in Parliament, and Ms. Nelisa Nobatana, our committee secretary for women, for the Portfolio Committee on Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. And Ms. Zuki, she's the coordinator for the Select Committee on Health and Social Services in the NCOP. So those are our staff, support staff that we are with today. You have only 45 minutes with us. We will exceed 45 minutes because of follow-up questions. And make yourself comfortable, relax. If maybe you can see good anxiety is getting higher and higher, just smile. And then notice the smile was born. Yeah, when I just smile, not we are going to smile and then Zobona is opera. But also, you can also drink water so that you are not feeling like, sometimes when anxiety pet and attention, you feel like you're thirsty. So it's better when you drink water. And then, but also take a deep breath, because now that one can help you. And then, thank you for honoring our invitation and for your time. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson, and Ms. Shauli, like the Chairperson correctly rectify us. Can you give us an indication of who you are, and also tell the panel why you think you will be a perfect candidate for the NYDA board?
Evening, and thank you very much for the opportunity. I know that it's been a very long week. The interviews have started on Monday morning, and this is the last interview. So I just want to thank members for their patience and taking the time to speak to young people about their ideas for the NYDA as well as youth development in South Africa.
My name is Nonqeba Mhlauli. I am from the Northern Cape, a very small town, very beautiful town called Uppington. And really, I think that my life is actually testament to, how a young person's life can change if certain things are done, and if certain things are done well, in the context of how do you get a young person off the street and into a classroom, how do you get a young person off the street and into a community center, how do you get a young person off the street into a sports field, how do you get a young person off the street into an art center, etc., etc. From a very young age, in fact, from when I joined what we define as youth, which is 15. I was involved in various community, activist community programs. The first one, and I think the one that was most noticeable, that really put my life on a particular trajectory, was the Planned Parenthood Association of South Africa, working with Love in my community, where we were involved in peer counseling, speaking to young people about the pressures of peer pressure, issues around teenage pregnancy, issues around alcohol abuse. And those things are very big issues in my community, because those are actually the things that make young people, not, get or be able to fully reach their potential. Other than that, I was involved in mentoring. I still mentor, in fact, young women. A friend of mine actually has a female basketball team. I don't know how to play basketball, but I do help with mentoring the young ladies. I was involved in a community cultural group, something that we started about 15 years ago. It's called Masakane Arts Center. In fact, if you can go on Facebook and check out the page, it basically looks at how you can improve young people's lives through using arts and drama and performance and music, etc. I don't know how to sing. However, I did used to do the script writing for that particular initiative. And to this day, 15 years later, something that was started by a bunch of high school kids in Babalelo has been so influential in changing the lives of the people in my township. I'm also a political activist. I've been involved in various political structures. I think that it's important for young people to be involved in politics, and I don't think that we should ever frown upon young people who, exercise their activism through politics. I think that my involvement in the student movement, for an example, various structures of the governing party have really been, important in that the various campaigns that we've led, within our communities. Just this past week, in fact, in my local ANC branch, we launched a food garden, wherein the idea really is that the food garden becomes a sustainable form of food security for that particular community. But other than that, I just also think that political activism is important for young people to contest space. The fact that you now have so many young people in parliament is a very good thing. And I'm a firm believer that, South Africa is really for us to inherit as young people, and we can only inherit it if we're involved in decision-making processes of the country. I'm an aspirant academic as well. I hold a master's degree from Rhodes University. In fact, I did all of my qualifications at Rhodes University in African Language Studies and Social Policy, basically looking at how you can use, research focused on language barriers within the public health sector. I mean, a case in point right now, you have Cuban doctors in South Africa who have been dispersed to all over, all areas in the country. And obviously those Cuban doctors don't know how to speak in the African language, but the patients that they need to service sometimes don't know how to speak English. So that's really what my areas of research was about, in terms of how we can overcome language barriers within the public healthcare sector to ensure that people are able to access quality healthcare when they do visit a healthcare institution. I'm in the process of developing my research proposal for doctoral studies. Also looking at how we can, it's also basically within the public healthcare sector, and the broad idea at the moment, which is actually quite still being refined, is looking at how COVID, in fact, and the different partnerships between the public and private healthcare sector gives us a very great study implementation of universal healthcare coverage. I'm also a professional. I have worked in various, spaces. I've been a researcher for the South African Clothing and Textile Workers Union. I was a researcher in the Western Cape. I then moved to the National Assembly, where I was the head of communications as well as the spokesperson for the majority party in Parliament. So really my understanding and appreciation for the role of Parliament in not only making laws, but also conducting oversight and ensuring that government actually delivers on what it promises, within its electoral mandate. I have a thorough appreciation for that as well. I serve on a couple of, one at the moment. I serve as a council member for the TVET College, the South Cape TVET College, where I serve in the finance committee. So that also basically has given me a good grasp of the importance of corporate governance, as well as ensuring that you've conducted proper oversight. And I think that really, currently, actually, before I jump that, currently I work as a public servant in the presidency. And I think that where I'm placed currently as the spokesperson for the minister in the presidency is really giving me exposure and experience into the importance of not only, the implementation of government programs, but also the coordination at a national level. And I really do think that this combination, places me in a unique opportunity, in a unique position. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairperson, you can continue. You can continue that side.
Honorable Malika. Malika. Honorable Nchawele, you will be the first one. Honorable Masiko, Honorable Mpiti, Honorable Mkweba, Honorable Aka, Mamkaula, Honorable Mamkaula, and Honorable Malulek. I think I want to start with the first question. But it's fine. Maybe I'll ask you later. Yes, good call. Bunto zoyibuza the question. Mina ngizoyenza follow up. Tate Nchabele?
Thanks, Chairpersons. Msauli. Okay. I just want to check. Youth unemployment is the most challenging issue facing young people in this country. What mechanisms, from a policy and implementation perspective, outside the NYDA, that we can use to support youth and reduce youth unemployment? What is it? What are those mechanisms that you'll use to ensure that there is jobs for young people?
Thank you for the question. I think that, where we currently find ourselves in South Africa and, in the world, basically, which is we are currently in a world, right? So the challenges that we had, what we thought were challenges 2009 are going to be tripled post-COVID. And I do think that the NYDA, where we are currently, actually, the NYDA, sort of position to reimagine what a post-COVID South Africa would look like and what the opportunities are in terms of ensuring that we don't they always say that you don't let a good crisis go to waste. So I do think that the first thing that I would start at is For an example, if you look at the South African youth policy, I mean, 70% of the document is actually just situational analysis, right? It doesn't really go to what a policy or position statement is on what our view is in addressing youth unemployment in South Africa. So I think that there's a gap there that we can actually craft a new mandate or craft new marching orders in terms of addressing issues of young people in South Africa. To directly answer your question, there are various categories of young people in South Africa. So the first one is you have young people who are graduates who are unemployed. The second category is that you have young people who are non-graduates and unskilled. The third category is that you have young people who are unemployed but skilled. Young people who have amazing ideas but really who want to become entrepreneurs. On the first one, which is your graduates, well, the first thing that a graduate needs is experience, and it needs, work exposure. And, through your NEDLAC process, through your private and public-private partnerships, through your job summit commitments, you really can craft common sort of commitments to providing work experience and apprenticeships. But what kind of jobs do we want, right? So for an example, Capital will say that, we will create 6,000 jobs in the next 6 months. And then you actually find out that those kind of jobs are actually just people sitting at a call center. So they're not meaningful employment. So I think that we need to craft working together at a level of NEDLAC and with all social partners to say, what are the meaningful jobs that we want to create, and what kind of, for an example, if you say that Nengaba has a degree in journalism and media studies, would taking her to a call center be maximizing on her exposure? It wouldn't, right? But however, would taking her to intern at a community radio station in Babalelo and Uppington maximize on work experience? Yes, it would, right? So that's the first point. The second point is, if you're looking at in your township, and I think about my township a lot, right? Young people who are very skilled, right? You'll find that within the households, there's a young person who knows how to fix the TV. You find a young person who knows how to build. You find a young person who knows how to fix the car, etc., etc. So within your community, you have young people who know how to do things, right? On these skills that the young people have in order for them to be empowered, to be able to change their lives. And I do think that in terms of young people who already have skills, we actually need to introduce, or in fact, what I would do, I would literally make the NYDA head up a campaign, a mass lobby and advocacy campaign for mass accreditation of existing skills, right? Because once, for example, if you have a builder and say to this builder that you've been building houses with your father since, for an example, you were 16 years old and now you're 25. So you basically have about 9 years of experience in doing or practicing your skill. But however, you can't be contracted by Nongeba or someone else who wants to go to the bank and say that I have a contractor because I want to build a house. But if I then if I verify your skill and I give you the certification, then I'm basically empowering you to be able to do work outside of the immediate sort of informal sector. So I think that there is a great opportunity for us to take the existing skills that we have, verifying those skills, accrediting those skills, and because basically youth development is youth empowerment. By giving you a tool to empower yourself, I'm basically saying to you that now that you're verified and now that you're accredited, you can actually now do work with major companies, etc., etc. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and thank you very much, Ms. Mhlauli. Ms. Mhlauli, you've been in the public service for some time, and the question that I would like to ask you relates to the issue of good governance. What do you understand as being the principles that define good governance, and what would you do to enhance the NYDA to conform to the principles of good governance? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Masiko. Well, the NYDA, like any public institution, is obviously governed by your PFMA and other pieces of legislation that spell out legally, what sort of the principles are of good governance, how to ensure that, as an oversight body, you exercise you exercise the proper financial management of an institution, etc. However, I think the one thing that's the most important one, what the PFMA says, for me, it's ethical leadership. So, for an example, we can, and I mean, really, it's actually the first principle of your King 4 principles of good governance, in that we can, as a board, sit and legally, right? However, we can actually sit as a board, whilst having done legally everything right, also ethically do everything wrong. And I'll make this example, would it be correct for a board to pass a resolution in the current economic climate of young people losing their jobs, young people being put on short time, young people getting salary cuts, to pass a resolution, a legal resolution, to increase board fees, for an example, right? So for me, that would be a consideration to say, beyond what we do by the book and getting a clean audit, what are the other decisions that we make to ensure that this institution is not just an institution that carries out its fiduciary duty, well, as a board that carries out our fiduciary duties, but also does so in a manner that takes into consideration the importance of ethical leadership, of integrity, but also of transformation. For an example, would it be correct for us, while there are so many enterprises, owned by the rural youth, for an example, to decide to give or grant funding to previously advantaged as opposed to previously disadvantaged people? So there's also a transformation question, So with the resources that we have, and the powers that we have, are we using them to transform society? Are we using them to exercise, understand the condition of young people in South Africa? Or are we just using them to get a clean audit at the end of the day and say, thank you, we've done our work? And I think that's, for me, that is the distinguishing factor if we're looking at good corporate governance. Thank you very much.
You said, I think one of the members was asking you about scrapping of experience. One of the members was asking, I don't know who was asking you about scrapping of work experience for new graduates to enter the workplace. Somebody was asking you that, or it's you who was responding?
In saying that graduates need work exposure, and my answer was that we should use partnerships to ensure that we have apprenticeships to expose young people to work.
Yeah, I think the NYDA was the one who was championing it.
Yes, yes.
But how are you going to ensure that that policy is implemented? Mm-hmm. Because you see, for now, one of the candidates who was here, I don't know whether it's today or yesterday, was saying, yes, there's pronouncement of it, but in terms of implementation, it's like there's still a gap, or it's not fully implemented, because there is one municipality. There's one municipality in the Eastern Cape who sent out an advert which still put experience as the requirement, which also it's a problem for young people, because NYDA was the one who was championing it, who was talking about it, and for it to be pronounced by government that this thing of experience must no longer be something that is considered or be put in the requirements for any position, so that young people can be able also to go and compete for those positions and be appointed. And when you look at the way things are, it's like other companies, private sector and other departments, they get away with it because it's not legislated. So if you are appointed as a board member in the NYDA, what is it that you're going to do to ensure that this is fully realized so that young people can be given an opportunity to enter the workplace?
Thank you, Chair, for that question. I think that I'd like to answer it in two parts. I think the first one is that the mandate of the NYDA, well, one of its mandates is to lobby and advocate for the mainstreaming of youth development in South Africa across the board, right? And what we need, hence I said that we'd have to relook at what we call policy, and even though the integrated youth strategy hasn't been adopted yet, in fact, as a new board, if we do get appointed, it would actually be a great opportunity to relook at all of those policy documents, because right now the NYDA does advocacy work, as you rightly pointed out, right? After it does advocacy work, the president makes an pronouncement, this thing then gets adopted, but then who follows through on it, right? Last year, within the 6th administration, there was the introduction of the district development model. And I think that through partnering, because basically the district development model is a model which seeks to say that from national to the level of the district, what are the national investments that we make and how do we track those national investments through targeting and monitoring and evaluation. Now, when you then institutionalize within this new system, right? When you then institutionalize youth development, you are actually going to ensure that you are able to track on government commitments. For an example, if you say, if Public Works, for an example, says that we are going to build a road to Sabale, right? And then the provincial department says that we are going to build a bridge or a school, etc., etc. That's infrastructure development, right? Through this model, district something else, and then it becomes this massive infrastructure program, right? Through this model, you can then say, in that infrastructure program, that this massive infrastructure development program that you're having in this particular village, how many of the subcontracted companies, right, are youth-owned enterprises? If they are not youth-owned enterprises, how many young people are employing? Right? And what is the criteria of employing that young people? So you can actually craft, you can actually institutionalize youth development by saying to government that in your planning processes, these are the commitments that you make to ensure that certain jobs go to young people, certain contracts go to young people, certain agreements go to youth-owned enterprises, etc., etc., etc. And then you track that through your Department of Monitoring, Planning, Monitoring, Evaluation, as well as your MTSF and other planning and evaluation mechanisms. That's the one part of my answer. The second part of my answer, which is specifically to the issue of youth exposure, it is a fact that there are jobs that do not need prior experience, right? So for an example, your EPWP jobs don't need for you to have, prior work experience. And those kind of jobs should literally just be set aside for young people. Well, most of them are in any case at the moment. And I really just think the issue becomes tracking and tracing. And also the other important thing is, what I say to Salga, right? When half of the municipalities of Salga are non-compliant with government policies, so how does the NYDA lobby, advocates, but also hold Salga, for an example, accountable to say that you are a structure, you've made commitments, municipalities are not complying, how do we then, engage that particular at that level? And I do think that we are in a unique position to be able to recraft or reimagine our relationships with a whole lot of institutions of government. However, going back to my first answer, is that apart from jobs that don't need experience, many jobs do need work exposure, right? And we need to, beyond just saying that there are jobs that don't need work exposure, those that do need work exposure, what kind of work exposure can, for an example, the public sector come and say, in industry, in the manufacturing industry, for example, we will host 20 young people who want to become designers. In fact, the Clothing and Textile Workers Union used to have a very good model of partnering industry with students who are at TVET colleges. So students who are at TVET colleges who are studying to become fashion makers, etc., would actually be partnered with certain companies and certain manufacturing plants, clothing manufacturing plants within the vicinity, to ensure that by the time you graduate, you don't only just have a certificate or diploma or degree, but you actually have real work experience and technical skills that particular function. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Ngibonge nkosazana yami uMhlawuli. Lana ezweni lethu sinenkinga yomnotho wethu kulelizwe. Ombiwa kulelizwe uhambe uye kwamazwe angaphandle. Uyohluzwa njengosithi nje kade ngibiwa lana igolide. Siyazi sonke ukuthi la eSouth Africa sinemayini. Kodwa ziyathathwa ihambe kuye emazweni angaphandle ziyohluzwa. Zibuye thina la sesizothola thina imvuthuluka. While sibe sinabo abantu noma intsha engawenza lo msebenzi. Siphinde sibe nodokotela asinjengawe. Fundela ubudokotela, unesitifiketi, wazi kahle ukuthi isifo esithize silashwa ngempilisi enjani. Even yona vaccine lesikhuluma ngayo uyayazi yenziwa kanjani. Kodwa manje ngenxa yokuthi la eSouth Africa sisenayo lento ebizwa ngokuthi ingcindezi. Kusho ukuthi kumnandi nifunde nje intsha ethi ifundele njalo theory. Zonke izinto thina kuze zibe izinto ezolapha izifo ezilana kuthina funa iqhamuke ngaphandle. Kuyimanje sikhuluma ngeCovid-19. iCovid-19 sami kwamanye amazwe bashenye indlela ukuthi bangayilapha kanjani, kodwa lathina koze kufa abantu silindele ama-country athize ngaphandle ukuthi azolapha lana. Kodwa nibe nikhona nina ngodokotela ngani noma lezi certificate enifundayo kusuke nifundiswa kusuke nidlala umdlalo weingane yini ocabhayani. Umbuzo wami ke uthi nkosazana yami kanjalo namalab iy'nkampani zabantu abamnyama laba angithi ngiyothatha igazi angakayiboni zikhona, kodwa obvious iy'ngane zethu la eSouth Africa ziwufundele lo msebenzi. Umbuzo uthi wami ke uthi mangabe wena uyangena kule board yini ongayenza ukuthi laba abantu abafundile bengagcini bephethe lezi certificate, kodwa nabo sibabone nabo sebexhaseka bakwazi ukuvula inkampani la ezokwazi ukuthi ziqashe abantu ukubheka umnotho wethu ziwuhluze. Ungcono ukukhuluma ukuthi bayadayiselwa labantu bangaphandle. Kanjalo njengoba udokotela uyazi ukuthi mangiphethwe ikhanda lifuna lakhiwa kanjani, lenziwe kanjani. Even ivaccine why when ungasiza kanjani wena ukuthi kuhlangana odokotela la bakwazi banikeze imali baxhaswe njengalaba lana emobeni eThekwini kunendawo yakha amaphilisi khona abanye beze babanjwa bewakha ngongemthetho. Nathi sibona lezi ngane zethu ezifundile nalezi certificate nazo iqasha abantu zakha lamaphilisi zakha nale mijovo zakha nama vaccine la azolapha. Ilonto nje ngibuza okugcina kilento yama contract license ukuthi uqashiwe kodwa kuthiwa uzosebenza uzosayina icontract esikhathi esingaka ekugcineni awusenawo umsebenzi usebenza awukhululekile. Yini wena ongasilwela nalezo zinto lezi engikhala ngazo amaphilisi konke nemijovo ngoba phela udokotela wena. Why kuze kufunakala udokotela ngaphandle kuze kolanda izinto ngaphandle while nikhona? Yizo zonke izinto engifuna ukwazi nina ke njenge-youth. Yini enizoyenza? Siyayicela i-youth ka-76 bakithi kivuke, nothi kube yi-youth lena ezigxila kakhulu ephuzweni. Ngiyabonga.
Enkosi Mama, and just to state that andikakabi ngudokotela, but I'm hoping that in a couple of years I will be. But thank you. Yes. Enkosi Mama. Yes. Okay. Oh yes. Thank you. Thank you for that, Chair. I think the first point that Umam Kaula raises is the issue of, and in fact it happens, she makes the example of, resources going from one country to another, but it also happens within the country, right? You also have a situation whereby a province like the Northern Cape, which is quite rich in mining, the processing of those raw minerals and all of the technology and engineering that ought to happen within the Northern Cape and within, for example, Katu, where there are lots of mines, they actually have to import skills for those kind of people, right, to do that kind of work. And then you find that the people of that particular community in Katu don't benefit from having these mineral resources close to them. So it happens even within South Africa. So what the DTI has been trying to get off the ground for the longest time, and I do think that the NYDA can come up with innovative ways using research and innovation. Using research and innovation is to say, how do we ensure that in a mining town like Katu, right, you have all of the processing value chain, or well, at least half of it, in that particular community, to ensure that jobs are created for young people, to ensure that that value chain services the community of that particular area. So I think there's an opportunity there to explore. The second one is Umam Kaula talks about the whole idea around how we have to import medicine, right? So for example, the Innovation Fund, which sits with the DSI, has lots of money for research and innovation, etc., etc. The NYDA can simply advocate for a certain percentage, let's say 10%. 2% of that research must go to young entrepreneurs that are involved, not just medicine, robotics, artificial intelligence, etc., etc. And in that way, you are actually empowering young people that are trying to find solutions to fix the problems that we have in society. So I do think that we can maximize on on things such as research and innovation to ensure that young people are actually supported. The other thing is, even when you, for example, do have youth entrepreneurs, and I really think that this is something that is an idea that we've been sleeping on as a country. You can have youth entrepreneurs, but how do those entrepreneurs get their products to be sold, right? So you can have someone who owns a farm, who farms the produce, but how do we get that person who farms the produce to be able to make sure that there is some income, or that particular operation is successful? And I think that what we can do as the NYDA, working with the Department of Telecommunications, is to actually introduce or launch a portal or an entrepreneurial portal for youth-owned businesses, where young people who have different businesses can register whatever company that they have. Let's say, for an example, you have a farm and you want to sell your vegetables, right? So you basically, and then you put your on there, you partner with the post office for distribution purposes. Any other person who has any other idea, you can even launch an app, for an example, which is easily accessible. You can make the portal in itself zero rated. For an example, in COVID-19 alone, over 500 websites have been zero rated. We can actually launch a portal or a platform for only young entrepreneurs, where young people can go, they list their products, they list their services. And if I, for example, am looking for a hair product, I can go onto this portal and say, I am based in Tshwane and I'm looking for this type of hair product. I pay for it, it gets delivered. And in that way, you have an existing market and an existing sort of market for young people who are involved in business, young people who have services, or who have traders who want to sell their skills, who want to sell whatever work that they can do. And I think that, in fact, the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement through the AU has launched something like this for African youth in terms of inter-border trading. And I think that that's an idea that we can really maximize on to ensure that we actually support young entrepreneurs, because they're already doing it on Facebook and Instagram, etc. Why don't we bring them all together and say that this is the one place that I can go to if I'm looking for anything in South Africa and any type of business that is owned by a young person to support them. Thank you.
But how do you influence a government to implement such a thing?
I actually think that it would actually be very easy to do. You speak to the department of telecommunications, right? And the Department of Telecommunications can actually assist with the development, or even pay even for the development of such a portal. After you've developed the portal, you put out through communication, you put out first and foremost, the portal must be zero rated to ensure that it's accessible to everyone. If there's a development of an app, the Department of Telecoms can help with that. For distribution purposes, because it's already within the one department, you use the post office, which already has a distribution line to distribute the products, and you just have people register their companies online, and then you advertise, and this new portal, you invite young people to register on it. You can use, social media, different forms of media to, invite people to register their businesses on it. And you basically just maximize on it in that way. Thank you very much.
Okay, no, thank you, Chair. In fact, Ms. Mhlauli, my question is very straightforward. What do you think are the shortcomings of the NYDA, in your honest view, so that it tackles youth unemployment and also the required skills?
Thank you. If I were to do a SWOT analysis of the National Youth Development Agency, I would say that one, its strength is that good governance. I think that the fact that we've been able to, within 11 years, build a fairly stable institution through a merger of two different institutions, and have it to be as stabilized as it has been quite, I think that's good. However, and this is what I think the weakness is what impact does that stability have? So you have this stable institution that gets clean audits all the time, but what impact does it have, right? And I think that the reason that there's a lack of impact is because I don't think that the NYDA is actually as focused as it ought to be on its constitution, and its legal mandate, right? I think that we have, and maybe it's also it having inherited some of the problems of its predecessor organizations. We have characterized it as a panacea to all youth problems in South Africa, and that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be an agency that advocates and lobbies for the streamlining of youth development and ensure that initiatives are implemented and facilitated across the board from all sectors of society, and basically ensure that there's proper monitoring, evaluation, and implementation of those particular initiatives. So I think for me, there needs to be a focus. If we are saying that these are the three main mandate areas of the NYDA, right, we need to then craft. And hence I'm saying that I know that they recently adopted their strategy for the next 5 years from 2020 to 2025. But I do think that we need to craft very clearly what do we mean by mainstreaming. How do we institutionalize youth development in South Africa? We haven't done it yet. In fact, if you look at the 7 priorities of the current administration, youth development is implied, right? So it's implied that if you're talking about education and skills development, that you're somehow talking about young people somewhere in there. It's implied that if you're talking about a better Africa and a better world, you're somehow talking about young people somewhere in there. So I think that we need to explicitly craft out, if we are saying that for the next 5 years, we have 7 priorities, these 7 priorities mean for youth development in South Africa, right? If we're talking about building a capable developmental state, right? What does that mean? If you look at, for example, your the age of your DGs, which is basically the highest level of administration within the public sector, right? A lot of very good administrators are aging. A lot of them are retiring. What is the plan within the Department of Public Service and Administration and the National School of Government to ensure that in the next 5 years, when all of the DGs who are currently there are on retirement, you have a changed foresight? And I think that it really presents the NYDA with a great opportunity to say that we want you to together, let's craft how we are going to ensure that not only at a level of the private sector, but also the public sector, having a public sector that is young. It can't be that level workers are young people. However, when you get to senior management, it's people who've been DG since 1994. So I do think that for me is an area to say that, look, we have an interest in governance of this country. We have an interest in saying, if you are capacitating the state, what is the role of people in state capacity? What is the role of young people in, if you are saying that you're building a developmental state, what is the role of young people in that? So I really, for me, do think that the NYDA needs to review the national, and we need to really focus on the things that we ought to be doing and not try to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. Thank you very much.
So, did you see the new youth policy that was advertised? There was a bill of youth policy that was advertised, and then the closing date was too soon for the department to say they are closing. And then what we have done as the portfolio committee, we requested the department to extend the closing date. And the closing date was on the 30th of April. But remember, during that time, it was during lockdown. The president pronounced on a lockdown on the 28th, 2020 March, and then the closing date for that youth policy was the 30th of April. So what we've done also as the portfolio committee, we said no, they must extend again, they must bring back that youth policy, because young people did not participate in that bill because it was during lockdown. So have you seen it?
No,
so that all the good ideas that you're talking about, they must be put there, because I think that's what is needed, But also the other thing that I wanted to check from you, or to ask you, if I understand that young people, you have interests in those senior management posts in public service, but do you think those senior or old people that are there are no longer effective, or or they are not needed by the system? Because you see, we must guard against that, because there's a perception, even in Parliament, some young people were saying, no, mabaphume laba badala bahambe fike thina manje kungena thina. But mawuthi uyabheka ukuthi laba bathi kungena bona, kungena equality or quantity. So I think these are some of the challenges that we are faced with, especially with young people. Why do young people this time, they think they are more younger when we also were young before them? And in fact, some of the old people that they are insulting, especially in the social media, are people who fought for our liberation. They're not even my age. They're older than me, some of them. But when you look at the way young people are behaving in the social media, it's not on. They disrespect, they disregard, they even disregard authority, which is another challenge in our country. So how are you, when you are there, you're appointed as a board member in the NYDA, going to ensure that young people of South Africa, they must learn to be patriotic, first, and they must not be pleased always by and be entertained by things of like corruption and so on. Why are young people of South Africa not interested in real issues that are affecting them? But our young people of the country are more interested in things that, I'm not saying, people must not have views on other issues, whether it's corruption or whatsoever. But why are young people of our country not fighting for space in participating in the economy of the country, in skills development? But also they fight too much to be for grants. But what is wrong? Why do they want to sit at home and not do anything? Are we a welfare state? So, I'm posing these things because of your experience and your qualifications and the vision that you have. That I think somewhere what is lacking, it's closing the gap between yourselves, as young people, and nobody is correcting each other. It's like everything that it's said there in the social media, right, whether they are insulting the president, right, whether they are disregarding the rules and regulations that are done, are pronounced by government. I've never seen most of young people commenting on those things. So if you are appointed to serve in the board of NYDA, these are critical matters that I think, if a board of NYDA has to bridge the gap and redress the imbalances of the past and the imbalances of even the same thing in education. It's like those that are speaking English, they are cool. Those who can't speak English, about being undermined. Young people themselves are doing it. So I just want to get from you, when
And if we are saying that South Africa, must look away years, and I'll make the example that I made earlier on about Directors General. Right now, we have, I think it's 1 or 2 females, well, actually 2, who are DGs, right? So, and the reason that we are sitting with a situation that we have only 2 female DGs is precisely because we never thought that in 2020 we want to have the top administrators of this country to be gender, well, to be a 50% male and 50% female. We didn't plan it, and because we didn't plan it, we are now sitting, and if those 2 female DGs resign, we're going to have an all male foresight. And for me, that is a problem of proper planning, proper visioning, because we're not going to achieve the society that we want to achieve by mistake. It's only going to happen if we say that by year X, we want to have put through so many young people with these qualities, these experiences, these skills to be in these positions. And it's not just in the public sector, it's in the private sector as well. The cohort of Black managers that we had when we came into democracy, those people are going on retirement, right? And what is the plan to ensure that the current Black managers that are there are training and, mentoring the next cohort of Black managers within boardrooms, et cetera, et cetera. And for me, that's really the fundamental flaw. Hence, I said, we need to take a step back and say, in 5 years' time, if we're talking about the National Development Plan, right, and where we are in terms of what we had envisaged for 2020, what can we do within the next 5 years to get us to halfway to where we want to be? By the looks of things, we're definitely not going to get where we think that we can be, but at least, come up with some sort of 3 or 4 priorities to put in place already now, the building steps towards what we want to get to. The last point, which is very important, the whole point around patriotism. It is the fact, and you correctly state, Honorable Member, that we aren't patriotic as South Africans. And it's so sad that that lack of patriotism is actually mostly, in fact, you find it on the social media space. And, I think that for me, the NYDA has, I think, a brilliant program, and if we maximize on it properly, can be very effective, and that is the National Youth Service, right? So how do we use the National Youth Service to ensure that we introduce, not even introduce, we maximize on current programs around patriotism? And I'll make, right now, as I'm sitting right here, I'm a successful product of government investment, right? I went to an office school, studied an NSFAS, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So we have a real life successful product of government investment, but there's absolutely no obligation on me to give back to my country. There's none. There's no obligation on me to say, because you got A, B, and C, and you are here because of government investment in you, you are therefore obligated to pay it forward. We don't have that. And I think that for me, we need to think about whether we want to introduce some sort of obligatory paying it forward, for lack of a better term, to ensure that, because that's the only way that you're going to actually, have a situation whereby people who have benefited from the state and its programs are able to return it into their communities and instill those values and in fact, just instill the idea of servicing your country. Because I think that's very important, that we serve and service our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We don't all have to ask questions, but it's okay.
Chair, I want to say that as a young member of parliament, I have a vested interest in this process. And so I think I should be afforded an opportunity because I've raised my hand and I waited for everybody else. So with that being said, Sis Nongaba, I would like to thank you for your inputs. We appreciate it. Just a few things that I really think are important for me to raise to you is, I think when speaking about the NYDA and how the NYDA has come to measure its success amongst young people has been, in my view, measuring outputs rather than the impact. And you've spoken a lot about the impact in which the NYDA has perhaps not been as successful to measure. Not only that, when you look at the ideas that have come out of the NYDA, and of course government as well, you look at the employment tax incentive, you look at the YES program, which have received minimal success in my view. And so I want to ask you, how do you plan, should you be appointed on the board, to make the impact of these ideas meaningful? Because it's all good and well to have great ideas, but lack implementation, because that's what we've seen with these ideas that we hear from board members. They are great ideas, but when it comes to the implementation down on the ground, the young person does not find expression in those ideas that are being raised by board members. And so I'd like to know from you, with a particular focus on TVET colleges when you answer this question, because TVET colleges in this country have been left behind. If you look at the country, TVET colleges are falling apart across our country. And so what is the role in measuring the impact of the NYDA, particularly for those young people in TVET colleges who really don't have a voice and really never find expression outside or within these discourses that we have, as in part of youth development. So I'd really like to know from you, what is that message for those young people who don't find that expression, and how do we measure impact for them who are constantly left behind in these processes? Thank you very much.
Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable MPT, for your question. I think for me the first one is, and I'm happy that you talk about the issue of impact, because really for me impact is as simple as, if you say that you want to provide water, measuring the impact would be the amount of liters of water that come out of your tap, right? So it's as basic as that. If you are saying that you are going on a mass skills drive through your TVET colleges, right? The impact of how you measure that, or how you measure that impact, would be how many young people have gone through proper skills training and the transfer of skills. And I think for me, that is really, I mean, the National Skills Plan, for an example, talks about using your TVET colleges and other, learning for exactly that purpose, right? But I don't even think that we should start at TVET colleges. There are skills that. Okay. Okay. I think that the one thing that we need to do in South Africa is that we need to go on skill transfer program. And that's the one thing that the NYDA ought to champion, and the NYDA ought to advocate for. How do you do that? The first thing that you do is you turn through, your NATLAC, your Job Summit, and all of these other forums where people come together and make commitments. You turn your factory floors into training centers. For an example, I don't need to go to a TVET college to learn how to sew, right? I can go to a manufacturing plant in Cape Town for 6 months. I do the course, CETA accredits me, and I'm able to sew and make garments within my community. I can start up literally my own enterprise through that particular skill that I have acquired. That's the one point. The second point is, in our TVET colleges, who is going to our TVET colleges, right? the first problem in South Africa is that you have a historical problem of the perception around TVET colleges, because a TVET college is where I go when I don't get university placement. I mean, I have a family member of mine who had gotten straight A's in matric, is a carpenter, had been doing it for a very long time, but chose to go study medicine at Wits instead of going to a college to get a credit and continue doing work that they can already do, right? That is a problem of attitude, because there is a particular attitude that in order for you to be seen and for you to flourish, as they say on social media, you must have gone to a traditional university or a technical. So there is a problem of perception and there is a problem of culture that we need to fix. Thirdly, why would someone go to a TVET college to study HR, right? And a lot of people do that. I've got a cousin of mine who does that, right? Because a TVET college is intended for you to study HR, right? Or a TVET college is intended for technical training, right? And vocational learning. So my point is that apart from the perception around it, are we maximizing on what these institutions, your community colleges, your vocational training colleges, and et cetera, are we maximizing on the intended, the intended functions of those particular institutions? And for me, when you fix those problems, then you'll be able to really have fully functional technical training institutions that are going to be able to produce young people who have skills that they can use to empower themselves. Countries like Mozambique do them. Most Mozambicans who are in Africa had gone through the TVET college system, right? Because in Mozambique, it is instilled within the education system that you can actually opt out of the traditional education route and go into a technical training route. And all of those people are actually trading those skills of theirs. If you call a plumber today, if, for an example, your geyser gets burst right now, and you call an insurance company, I can promise you, chances are that whoever that insurer is going to send to come and look at your geyser will not be a South African. Will either be someone from Zimbabwe or someone from Mozambique. Why is that? Because all of them have the skills to do it. And in South Africa, we do not. And for me, that's what we need to change. Thank you very much. Yes.
Baka, Booz, angeke ngikuvalele ngaphandle yo. Booz. Booz. Fine. Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Nonceba. Yasisibuko sakho. Ngizazi nami ngikubize njengama-members amaningi. Yeah, Ms. Mhlauli, thank you very much for honoring our invitation and for your time. Is there anything that you want to ask, honorable members?
I think I just maybe have a comment, and thank you, Chair. I think that, as I said at the beginning, well, firstly, thank you for the opportunity. I really enjoyed this discussion, and I really think that it was quite insightful, and I really enjoyed all of your questions. But I do think that, you know, the NYDA right now is, and I think that COVID-19 is presenting the NYDA with a great opportunity to reimagine itself, to reimagine how it functions. I mean, right now, who would have ever thought that we would have hybrid systems in Parliament, where members of Parliament vote from different locations, and we do that right now, and it's a system that works. So it's really forced us to accelerate the kind of change that we need in society, and I think that a new board that is, you know, that consists of different ideas, different experiences, can really craft a very exciting program for young people in this country for the next 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We wish you good luck. You know, the processes of Parliament, at least you were there, unlike other people who doesn't know that environment that we will recommend to Parliament, and then Parliament will adopt the report, and thereafter the Speaker will then refer the report to the President, and the President is the one who will take the final decision on who must serve in the board. And then successful candidates will be notified by the Presidency when they get those letters. So that's why we wish every candidate good luck, because most of the candidates were very good, and the competition was too high, and yeah. But what you're saying, obviously, that's the interest of us also, that we want to bring together different skills of and experiences of young people, so that they can take NYDA forward, including considering even people living with disabilities, and so on. So thank you very much. Yeah, it was not easy for honorable members to be working since we started looking at the criticism from your social media, especially young people, some of them that applied, and they were not shortlisted. Others felt that the process is not fair. Others, they said the process is fair. Others were disgruntled. But anyway, we needed only 7 people. So obviously, when you need 7 people out of 680, obviously others they won't be in. Yeah, that's why everybody must feel free and take it positive. That if I'm in, I'm in. If I'm out, I'm out. But those who will be appointed, they must do their level best to change the lives of young people. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, honorable members, this was our last candidate. Drive safe, because so. Oh, okay. So thank you very much, honorable members. The meeting is adjourned. We'll meet on what date? On Tuesday. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Bye. Good night. Malika, good night.
Good night. Bye, Chair.
Bye-bye.
Bye, members.
Juba wena uthi buya eNorthern Cape. That's why we usually
Siskora nene. Share. Wesihlalo. Sihlalo. And ufuna sihlale ndawonye mase siskora. Oh, usho njalo. Oh.